Today's gospel highlights the sharp contrast between the first century and the 21st century. My microphone also attests this is the 21st century. It took Jesus and his disciples 3 days to go from Judea to Galilee, versus about an hour and a half today. They had to take food and water along and stop and replenish their thirst and their hunger because of the journey. Today, they could have breakfast when they left and lunch when they arrived. This is why the disciples had to go and buy food while Jesus stayed behind alone at the well. But it also set up a strange encounter between Jesus and the woman. Not strange by our standards, but extremely unusual for those times. There were huge worlds which separated Jesus from that woman. He was male, she was female, but even more importantly, he was a Jew, she was a Samaritan. Men and women who were strangers did not associate in public, but Jews and Samaritans were bitter enemies. But a physical need apparently brought together Jesus and this woman. Jesus was thirsty, and this woman had the means of getting water from the well. We often see this at the scene of an accident or another crisis. Total strangers, sometimes even enemies, will put aside differences in response to someone's desperate need. But obviously, Jesus was looking far beyond his own need for water, great as that might have been in that dry and arid land. Jesus recognized that this woman's need for spiritual healing was much greater than his need for thirst-quenching water. As you read through the Gospels, you see this often. Jesus stops to heal a physical affliction. It might be blindness or leprosy or paralysis. But then he proceeds to address a much greater need: affliction, wavering faith, festering sin, and sometimes just a broken heart. Today's gospel is a classic example. This lady's life was a mess. She had 5 husbands. And once she was a young woman with dreams, now she's an older woman with nightmares. She gave what she had, a cup of water. She received what she needed, forgiveness. But this happy exchange isn't limited to that first century. It can and will happen even now, in our own lives, if we but let it. So often you and I are burdened, weighed down by pressing problems, like maybe a serious illness, the death of a loved one, the loss of a job. The list is endless. The present is painful for us, and the future is even more bleak. So what do we do? Where do we turn? The answer is beautifully provided by the woman in today's gospel, along with dozens of other counterparts in other parts of the gospel. Let Jesus turn your heartache from a problem to an opportunity, a chance to share your pain with God so he can share his strength with you. The people in that little Samaritan town begged Jesus to stay with them, and he did for a couple of days. But I doubt if that removed all their problems. But I'm sure that it cut them down to size. And it can do that same thing for you and me that Jesus did for that woman. She let him help her. We've got to do the same.